That's
But
perfect. Now we have
that's my point though. Like, should we let him be that guy
I mean,
and just
I think at least my perspective. Obviously, I'm not a NBA head coach, but the way I would do it, because you got to have the big three, whether you think it's a big three or not. I know some people are like, it's not a big three. It is if they figure it out. But I think you got to have the big three play some form of minutes together to try to work it out. But then
yeah
after that, I think you basically operate Russ as the sixth man. So basically, what I would do is I would have them start, and then at like the 6 minute mark, LeBron James comes out of the game, comes sits on the bench, gets his rest, and Russ,
yeah
you got 6 minutes to do whatever you like. This is the Russell Westbrook show. Go get me. I need you to go get me 10 and 5 in this next little 6 minute block, and then you could let Russ be Russ because then you just put him with all the young guys. The Lakers led the league, or not led the league, but they were top 5 in pacing and top
hmm
5 in fast break points last year with an old ass team that was not very good. We have
yeah
nothing but young. Imagine how fast and pace wise we could do this year. You put Russ with a bunch of young and gun guys. I think that that's how you operate. So basically, you're just scattering LeBron and Westbrook's minutes. And then if Westbrook is killing it, let's say he's killing it, he's doing great and life's good. Well, then you have him, maybe close a game or finish a game. But if he's not really, he's like, he's kind of a little over the place or he's turning the ball over or something like that. It's a tight game. All right, tell you what, I need you to come down. I need you to sit on the bench. Let's go get this W.
yeah
Let's worry about the next game. It's just, will Russ be willing to do that is the problem.
so see and that kind of brings me to like my next like my question is like because the turnovers, where do the turnovers come from? Because I know they were bad in OKC, but they were never this bad. So like if we let him kind of just like you said be Russ, you think the turnovers will kind of get like reduced to like nothing really, like or at least go down to what it was like in OKC.
Yeah. I mean, look, anybody that has a high usage rate, which last year Russ still had a high usage rate, going to turn the ball over. I mean, James Harden, LeBron James didn't have that few turnovers compared to Russ. Like Russ averaged 4 turnovers a game. LeBron was at 3.5. So it wasn't that big of a difference
Ooh.
last year. Yeah. So it wasn't like it was like night and day better. It was just a bad year in general. But
Yeah,
I think also a lot of the turnovers was that Russell Westbrook, you had him be completely out of plays, out of games, ineffective, and then you give him the
yeah,
ball and you want him to figure it out rather than actually having sets or just play strictly for Russell Westbrook. It's basically like it'd be like if you showed up to watch a pickup game at a park and the game is going on, and
yeah.
they just look at you and go, "Hey, we want you to come in and be our point guard." You'd be like, "All right," but you're not going to have that feel. You're not. There's no sets for you,
Yeah.
so you're trying to figure it out on the fly. You're going to have
Mhm.
those turnovers, and then you're trying to overcompensate because you want to do something. So you're working twice as hard, which leads to
Exactly.
just silly mistakes, silly play stuff like that. And it wasn't so much just the turnovers; it was the in-game turnovers, because
Yeah.
there's a big difference between dead ball turnovers and in-game turnovers. Dead ball turnovers is like you throw the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
Like LeBron had a ton of those last year. But in-game turnovers is like you dribble in the flow, you just lose the handle, and the team's off to the races to the other side. That is in-game, and that is worse. And Russ had a lot of those last year, which were bad. So I think it's just going to come down to putting him within the frame and the scope of the actual offense and
Yeah.
having him play a role. I think that'd be the difference. Russ didn't really have a role last year. Like,
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
almost like they just threw him in and they said,
yeah,
figure out where you fit in for yourself.
exactly. And to a degree, okay, but you need to have stuff to fall on if things aren't going well. The problem was
Yeah.
Vogel didn't have that period. I mean, how many times do we see Russ, Rondo, and LeBron on the court at the same time? That should never be a lineup
Yeah.
at
No,
any
that's
point.
weird.
Yeah,
That's
and
really
then
weird.
he would have LeBron, THT, and Russ. Again, you have 3 guys that basically do the exact same thing. Like, yes, LeBron wants to play more off the ball. He shot 36% or whatever from three last season. I imagine that stays within that vicinity this year.
You think so?
So you can't
We
have
hope
moments.
so.
Yeah, I hope so, right?
Yeah, that's what I say. We hope so.
Yeah.
But he's
I mean,
LeBron though, so like,
yeah, I mean, look, LeBron's LeBron. I mean,
I've come to learn now, like you said, like LeBron's LeBron. But would you rather have Rondo or Russ if you could have one or the other?
from an impact perspective, Russ. Rondo, look, Rondo was clearly the better fit. Obviously, he was able to work it out. Rondo is also the smarter player, higher IQ,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's why he was able to make it fit. That's why he was able
Yeah.
to make it work. And the dude, playoff Rondo is playoff Rondo, right? That guy is insane in the playoffs.
Yeah, no,
and
really.
you had him shooting like 40% from three when he was in the bubble. But the
Yeah.
reason I say Russ is because if they could figure it out, like they were able to figure it out with Rondo, then that would be a monster of a team. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need like nobody thinks Russ is worse than Rondo unless you're just being biased and hateful towards Russ. There's a lot of Laker fans that are. There's a lot of Laker fans that think Russ is the worst player on the planet. He's not. People forget to the year earlier. He put up a 22 point a game triple double on a Wizards team with guys you can't even name, and they made the playoffs. Like he still got it in there. It's just, can they figure out a way to capitalize on it and get him to work?
It's because, well, yeah, exactly. And it's because, like me, I know too, I'm a prisoner like of the moment where like Russ, like we know Russ to be the great Russ, but right now it's just what we have seen from him in the last 3 years have just not been all too great. It just hasn't been like the Russ that we're accustomed to. So like, I think that's what it is. Everybody's a prisoner of the moment and not necessarily like understanding like that's still Mr. Triple Double, and I just, if we could make that fit, it seems impossible. In what is this, year 3 now with him? Year 3?
This will be year 2.
Oh, year 2, sorry. It seems like it's almost impossible. But I think if they were gonna make it work, it would be this year. Like this would be the time, to jail and like, because you take like LeBron, like Wade and Bosh back in like the Miami days, they were able to jail because their play style, was different, but at the same time, like they were all veterans. They kind of had like, they had this just understanding of like, okay, look, LeBron's our guy, Wade is a 2, and Bosh is 3rd, if you want to say. And I think with Anthony Davis, it's weird too because it goes in spurts. You know what I mean? It's like he has like a great half season and like not so great like the next season. But if we could just honestly, I wish, and this is probably non-realistic. I wish they could rest LeBron as much as they could. I mean, obviously not going to make LeBron come off the bench, but he is trying to stay in the league for another, I think, 4 or 5 years. So
he'll go as long as he can.
Yeah. No, so I wish they could rest LeBron as much as they could. Let Russ run the show for the majority of the season, because that would give him the pilot feature, if you will, give him enough time to like, let him run the team for a little bit. Then towards playoff time, implement LeBron more and more. You have a fresh LeBron for playoffs and, championship, here we come. But it doesn't really,
I think they're going to do that to a degree, because Darvin Ham in his press conference earlier today, he talked about he doesn't want to play like LeBron and AD, playoff minutes. He wants them to play as few minutes as possible. And I do think they ride on the backs of Russell Westbrook. I really do. But I mean, if anything, like if you were ever going to have to decide like who to allow the range, at this point, I would give it to Russ, because LeBron is better and smarter to where he can figure out how to blend in. You know what I mean? Like where if you give LeBron, even though the better decision is to give it LeBron's arguably the greatest player, if not the greatest player ever. So give the ball to LeBron. He's the guy that's going to make the real impact play, stuff like that, which is good at the end of games. But I think for the majority of the game, you're almost better off just letting Russ run the show and have LeBron figure out how to play off of Russ, rather than Russ having to figure out how to play off LeBron.